Today's UK budget announcement just dropped like a wrecking ball, and it's aimed straight at the property market. Rachel Reeves has officially lit the match, and if the proposals on the table go forward, we could be staring down one of the most aggressive tax shakeups in recent memory. Homeowners, investors, estate agents, no one's walking away untouched. And the message is clear. Property wealth is the new fiscal battleground. The government says it needs to raise at least £20 billion urgently. Inflation is still hovering at 3.6%, food prices are climbing almost 5%, and growth, basically flatlining.
If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your feedback helps shape what we cover next, and you being here keeps the conversation going. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
Add in the cost of removing child benefit caps, soaring NHS expenses, public sector demands, and the record high bill for servicing national debt. And suddenly, tapping into property wealth starts to look like a tempting target. Conveniently, property isn't just a personal asset anymore. It's now viewed as a fiscal resource, ripe for the picking. And so begins the rollout of some of the most dramatic property-related reforms we've seen. At the center of this political earthquake is the long-rumored mansion tax, a 1% annual levy on homes valued over £2 million. That threshold might even drop to £1.5 million, which means this isn't just targeting oligarchs and overseas investors. It's about to scoop up long-time homeowners in areas like Kensington, Chelsea, Hampstead, and even parts of Surrey. For many, it's not about lavish lifestyles, it's about owning a property that's appreciated massively over decades. The optics might scream tax the rich, but the reality is more complicated. This tax doesn't just hit high flyers. Retired homeowners who bought properties back when prices were reasonable now face annual bills they may not be able to pay. The proposed workaround: let them defer payment until they sell or die, which, let's be honest, essentially turns their homes into tax IOUs, a legacy liability passed on to their children. That's not just fiscal policy, it's a redefinition of ownership. And then there's the so-called mansion tax trap. Once you set a hard threshold like £2 million, you create a strange market distortion. Buyers will rush toward homes just under the limit, while anything priced slightly above it becomes toxic, hard to sell, hard to value, and now burdened with annual tax. We've seen it happen in other markets. It's the policy equivalent of pricing yourself out of your own house. But we're just getting started. Next up is council tax reform, and this one might be even more disruptive. The current system is based on property values from the 1990s. It's wildly outdated and full of inconsistencies. The government wants to fix that by revaluing properties, especially at the higher end. What does that mean in real terms? For Band G and Band H properties, annual bills could skyrocket £7,600 and £9,000 respectively. Double or even triple what some people pay now. That kind of hike isn't just a financial inconvenience. It's a structural shift. It turns property into a recurring expense on a scale we haven't seen before. And the impact will be felt unevenly. Most of the reassessments will target London and the southeast, raising £600 million a year, but igniting serious resentment from homeowners who suddenly find themselves in a different financial reality. It also reinforces regional tensions. Northern MPs want to see more revenue from wealthy London constituencies. And this is how they're getting it. And just when you think it can't get any heavier, here comes the stamp duty shakeup. On the surface, there's a sweetener. No stamp duty on properties under £500,000. But the catch is sharp. For higher value homes, the beers duty could be replaced with a seller's tax. That's a huge reversal, and one that risks freezing the market completely. Sellers won't want to list if it means coughing up a hefty chunk of their sale price. Worse still, there's talk of allowing the stamp duty to be paid over several years, which sounds flexible, until you realize it could create a never-ending tax debt for homeowners. It adds complexity, slows down transactions, and makes buying or selling a home feel more like taking out a loan than making an investment.
If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your feedback helps shape what we cover next, and you being here keeps the conversation going. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
Estate agents are already warning that the market is grinding to a halt. Viewings are down 40%. Mortgage applications are collapsing. The entire system is stalling out under the weight of anticipation. But the most jaw-dropping proposal: capital gains tax on primary residences. That's right, the one thing politicians across parties have always avoided is now firmly on the table. up to a 24% tax on the profit from selling your main home. So if you bought a modest house for £200,000 years ago and now it's worth £800,000, congratulations, you might owe the government £144,000 when you sell. This goes beyond just raising money. It dismantles a core pillar of homeownership in the UK. For decades, property has been the safest way to build wealth, a reliable, if slow, ladder to financial security. This proposal doesn't just remove a rung, it saws off the whole ladder. It disincentivizes long-term ownership, shrinks the incentive to upgrade, and penalizes people for participating in a market that governments have spent years encouraging. And it doesn't stop at selling. There's also talk of taxing unrealized gains at death. That means your children wouldn't just inherit your house, they'd inherit the tax bill too. It throws a wrench into estate planning and sets fire to the idea of passing down generational wealth through property. Suddenly, the family home isn't an asset, it's a future tax bomb. The response: swift and severe. Asking prices have already dropped by 1.8% in a single month, the biggest dip in recent years. Buyers and sellers are frozen, waiting for clarity. No one wants to move. No one knows what their property will be worth, or what it will cost to keep. Estate agents are describing the mood as worse than post-2008, and they're not being dramatic. International investors are watching this unfold with growing concern. Many have already started pulling out. Wealthy buyers are moving assets offshore, often to places like Dubai, where tax burdens are lighter and the rules don't change overnight. This isn't just a blip, it's capital flight, a quiet exodus that sends a loud message. The UK is no longer seen as a safe haven for real estate investment. And the reality is, once taxes like these are introduced, they rarely stay in their original form. A £2 million mansion tax today could become £1.5 million tomorrow, and who's to say it won't be £1.2 million next year? This kind of tax creep gradually pulls in more and more homeowners. What starts as a levy on the rich becomes a bill for the upper middle class. It's a slow shift that ends with everyone paying more. This budget isn't just about fiscal necessity, it's about redefining the social contract around homeownership. What used to be seen as a pathway to stability, a reward for saving and investing in your future, is being reframed as a taxable luxury. For older generations who bought decades ago, it feels like punishment for time in the market. For younger buyers trying to get on the ladder, the entire system is now laced with uncertainty. And if these proposals pass in anything close to their current form, the long-term consequences will be hard to unwind. The housing market could face years of suppressed activity. Confidence, both domestic and international, could take years to recover. Investment will slow, prices may decline further, and homeownership as a vehicle for social mobility could become a thing of the past. That's the real cost of what's being proposed. It's not just about raising £20 billion, it's about what kind of property system we want to have. One where homes are seen as a reward for hard work, or one where they're treated like a miss for tax policy. So now we wait. But the warning signs are already blinking red. The market's retreating. Investors are leaving. Homeowners are on edge. And the UK is at a crossroads. The decisions made in this budget could set the tone for an entire generation of property policy, and once it's in place, it won't be easy to undo. If you found this breakdown helpful, hit like, share it with someone who's sweating over their mortgage, and let us know in the comments, how do you think these tax proposals will reshape the housing market? And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the biggest political and financial stories shaking up the system. But let's not sugarcoat it, this budget isn't just a course correction. It's a complete pivot in how the UK views wealth, property, and ownership. For decades, governments of all stripes have built their economic strategies around the housing market. They incentivized homeownership, let house prices climb unchecked, and encouraged people to treat their homes as their retirement plans. Now, seemingly overnight, that same system is being turned inside out. And it's not just economic, it's emotional. Property ownership in the UK isn't just financial, it's cultural. For many, buying a home is the single biggest milestone in adult life. It's stability. It's legacy. It's the thing you work for, save for, sacrifice for. And now, with these proposed reforms, that sense of security is slipping fast. The government's message is clear. If you're sitting on property wealth, it's time to pay up, but the chaos that could follow, not so clear. And that's where the danger really lies. Let's talk about how this could ripple outward. Because these aren't isolated policy changes, they're all connected, feeding into each other like a chain reaction. You get high-value properties with a mansion tax, and suddenly those owners need to sell. But wait, now selling comes with a new stamp duty for sellers, possibly payable in installments over several years, so they hesitate. But if they don't sell, they still owe that annual mansion tax. It's a lose-lose loop, and when enough people are caught in it, the whole market slows to a crawl. You get fewer listings, fewer sales, fewer mortgage approvals. Prices begin to stagnate or worse, fall. And when prices fall in a leveraged market like real estate, everyone feels it. Not just the rich. Everyone. Especially because so much of the UK's financial system is tied up in property. It's the asset that underpins everything: personal wealth, bank lending, even consumer confidence. When people feel house rich, they spend, they invest. When they feel house poor, they freeze. And let's not forget the renters. Because even though these taxes are aimed at homeowners and investors, the shockwaves won't stop there. When landlords face higher taxes on council tax, capital gains, or transaction costs, they'll pass those expenses straight down the line. Renters will bear the brunt, especially in major cities where housing demand is already sky high. The rental market is already stretched thin. This could break it. Then there's the psychological shift. Once you introduce the idea that your home isn't just your shelter or your family's future but a taxable asset subject to changing rules, you change the entire relationship people have with property. You kill confidence. And once confidence dies, the damage compounds. Investors pull out. Developers pause projects. New builds slow. Supply dries up. Demand doesn't. Prices stay unstable. This isn't speculation, it's already happening. Estate agents are reporting viewings down by nearly half. Mortgage approvals are tanking. International buyers are disappearing. These are not mild indicators. These are alarm bells. And let's talk international, because this budget doesn't just affect the domestic market, it affects the UK's reputation on the global stage. London has long been a magnet for global wealth. Property here has always been seen as safe, stable, even prestigious. That's why international investors parked billions into high-end homes. They weren't just buying bricks and mortar, they were buying trust in the system. But with the current trajectory, that trust is fading fast. Capital is already on the move. High net worth individuals are setting up trusts, restructuring portfolios, and moving their money and sometimes themselves to jurisdictions with more predictable tax environments. This isn't just tax avoidance, it's risk management. And once that capital leaves, it doesn't come back easily. It takes years, sometimes decades, to rebuild confidence in a system that's seen as unstable. And that's exactly how the UK is now being perceived: unstable, reactive, and unpredictable. Even worse, there's a sense this is just the beginning. That the threshold for the mansion tax will keep falling. That council tax will keep climbing. That CGT on primary homes will eventually expand. And that property will slowly but surely become one of the most aggressively taxed assets in the country. And it's not paranoia, it's precedent. Once a new tax is introduced, governments almost never roll it back. They tweak it, expand it, normalize it. Remember when inheritance tax thresholds seemed untouchable, or when capital gains on shares were low and manageable? Those ceilings didn't just rise, they disappeared. And now, we're seeing the same playbook being applied to homes. And if you're thinking, well, it's just high-value homes, consider this. Property prices have surged across the country for years. What used to be a luxury flat in London is now a modest home in many areas. What used to be out of reach is now just barely in reach, but still taxable. The thresholds may seem high today, but in 5 or 10 years, they could apply to anyone with a decent home in a major city. That's not speculation. That's how tax policy evolves. And here's the other thing no one seems to be addressing: timing. We're talking about massive market interventions during a period of already low growth, high inflation, and shaky confidence. You don't throw dynamite into a slow-moving economy and hope it picks up speed. You risk collapse. And the long-term damage isn't just economic, it's social. These reforms could fundamentally alter how people think about building a life in Britain. Do you save for a home when it might be hit with 5 different taxes in 10 years? Do you invest in a buy-to-let when capital gains could eat your margins and council tax keeps climbing? Do you plan to leave your home to your children when it'll come with a massive tax bill they can't pay? These aren't hypotheticals. These are the decisions people are making now, today, in real time. And if this budget goes through as hinted, those decisions could reshape the entire landscape of property ownership in Britain. This isn't about opposing taxes. It's about stability, predictability, trust, the fundamentals of any functioning market. And right now, all of those are at risk. It's not just a market correction. It's a full-blown ideological shift. Property is no longer being treated as a pillar of financial well-being. It's being treated as a political pressure valve. And once you turn that valve on, it's hard to shut it off. So what happens next? We wait for final confirmations, for amendments, for fallout. But make no mistake, the UK property market has already been shaken. Homeowners are worried, investors are spooked, renters are nervous, and the government, it's betting that these reforms will fill a fiscal hole without triggering a collapse. It's a risky bet, possibly the riskiest property gamble in modern UK history. And if it backfires, we're not just looking at falling prices or slower sales. We're looking at a total redefinition of what property means in Britain. Is it security? Or is it liability? Is it freedom? Or is it debt? Is it a legacy? Or just another taxable line on a spreadsheet? That's the question this budget leaves us with, and the answer may take years to unfold. So if you're watching the market, or trying to plan your future around it, keep your eyes open, stay informed, and don't assume the old rules still apply. Because after today's budget, they might not. And here's the part that stings the most: this didn't come out of nowhere. For years, politicians have danced around property tax reform. They've known the system is broken, that council tax bans based on 1991 valuations are laughably outdated, that the wealth gap between homeowners in London and renters in other parts of the country is widening by the day. And yet, nothing changed. Why? Because the moment you touch property taxes, you risk political fallout. You don't win elections by making millions of people feel poorer overnight. But now, with the public purse on life support, the gloves are off. There's no denying the Treasury needs money. Public services are stretched to the brink. Debt interest payments are at record highs. But when you single out property, when you go after it from every angle at once, you're not just taxing assets. You're attacking the financial scaffolding people have built their lives around. This budget isn't offering a slow, measured reset. It's hitting the accelerator on a complete transformation of what property represents in this country. For generations, owning a home was the endgame, the payoff for years of scrimping, saving, and staying in. Now, it's starting to feel more like a moving target, a liability wrapped in uncertainty, a door that opens to more tax bills than freedom. And for all the talk about fairness, about making the wealthy pay more, there's a looming risk that this won't just affect the top 1%. That once these new thresholds start shifting downward, middle-income families, the so-called comfortable but not rich, will get swept into the tax net, quietly, gradually, until a 3-bedroom semi in the suburbs becomes just as taxable as a townhouse in Knightsbridge. That's how tax creep works. And once it begins, there's rarely a rollback, just recalculations. If this hit home, literally make sure to like, share, and tell us what you think in the comments. Are these changes overdue? Or did the government just crack the foundation of the UK property market? And don't forget to subscribe for more breakdowns of the biggest dramas hitting the economy, the markets, and beyond. Thanks so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, you're officially part of the small percentage of people who don't just click away, and that means a lot. Before you go, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me your thoughts, your ideas, or even what you'd like to see next. I read every single one of them, and your feedback genuinely shapes the direction of this channel. If you enjoyed the video, tap that like button. It tells YouTube this content is worth sharing. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next upload. We've got more exciting videos coming, and trust me, you'll want to be here for them. This channel is just getting started, and your support helps it grow faster than you realize. Thank you again for spending a part of your day here with me. Stay curious, stay motivated, and as always, take care of yourself. Until next time, I'll see you in the next video.